Hello everyone, my name is Nikhil Vachani and I'll be giving you the tips for P6 December 2014 exam. Before I start off, what I would like to say is P6 as an exam is in itself very voluminous. It has lots of knowledge there and it's very hard to be able to say that pick up or these elements of the exam will be tested. So what I'm going to do, rather than saying this is what's going to be question 1, question 2, because the examiner tests different topics within a mix of questions, what I'm going to do is within the 5 major taxes that we've learned, I'm going to list down some key areas that you must study within that. So these areas, like question 1 predominantly is a 35 marker question where it has a very big scenario. There is a lot of reading to be done. But remember, in question 1, like I always told you, the entire question itself is in the body of the scenario. So when you read the scenario, it might seem it's a 35 marker, but in a sense it is broken down into very small elements or sub-parts of the question. So what I would say so that's to do with your question 1. What I would say is your question 2, similar in nature to question 1, but the scenario is slightly smaller for 25 marks. And usually the way he tests it is there is either corporation tax or income tax within that question 1, and question 2 is inheritance tax and capital gains tax. Section B, which you have 3 questions for 20 marks each, you got to do 2 out of those 3, and yet again those topics that he tests are a variety of taxes that he's tested over the past. But the scenarios are smaller, more doable, or the information can be comprehended a bit easier than in question 1 and question 2. But said that, let me just tell you now, for the different topics that we have or different taxes that we've learned, what are the key areas or the key things that you must do. Yet again, I would say before I tell you that P6 is such a subject that you must know the knowledge or majority of the knowledge that we have learned in the revision notes and the tuition classes. So let me start up with corporation tax first. As you know, corporation tax is a lot of elements there, but if I have to pin down on some key areas, I would say the most important thing to do in corporation tax is the groups. Within the groups, you remember we have 3 groups there. And I don't want you to pick and choose, do this part of a group or do the second part. I would like to say, do the 3 groups we have, focus on those 3 groups, whether it's the 75% loss group, the capital gains group, and the consortium. Now when you do those groups, don't just learn them by what the knowledge says. Try to, when you learn them as well, when you understand them, when you're trying to remember how to apply them, focus, like we discussed, on saying what really is this group, what can happen if you're in this group, and how do you enter into this group. So these 3 elements, you must do it for the loss group, the capital gains, and the consortium. Also within corporation tax, I would say a couple of more topics that you should focus on is the losses, which are tested very often. Not only the group losses, but the company losses as well. What the losses are, what they can do with the losses. And when you're doing these topics, remember there is also a huge element of advice and discussion that needs to be done. Secondly, what I would say is, I would say for the second tax, which is your capital gains tax, yet again, it's tested with your inheritance tax, but the key areas within your capital gains tax, if you ask me, are the reliefs. The different reliefs that you have, namely the entrepreneur relief, the PPR relief, a bit more important for this sitting, the rollover relief, the gift relief, the EIS reinvestment relief, and the incorporation relief. Now, like I said, you must know the conditions of these reliefs, because it's not about rewriting these reliefs into the exam question, but what is required at P6 is to be able to read the scenario and pick up that these reliefs are occurring. For that, you must know the conditions of those reliefs very well. So for the reliefs, know what really the relief is. Is it an exemption? Is it a deferral? Is it a reduced percentage? what are the conditions to be able to apply this relief, and finally how it applies. How do you actually apply it in a transaction? So those three things I would say is how you study for each of those reliefs that we've discussed, and that is what majority of the CGT question is. The only other thing I would say in CGT is, or capital gains tax, is do not confuse it with the inheritance tax, because the rules seem similar but still they're very different. So make sure when you're studying you don't confuse the two rules, and the examiner tests those topics together. The third topic is your inheritance tax, which is tested with your capital gains. And yet again, guys, as you know, inheritance tax, we've practiced a lot of parts of it. I'm sure most of you are also good at it at this point of time. There isn't a particular thing that I would say. Just what I would like to give you tips is practice the way we did it in tuition classes, in revision classes, during the lifetime, at the time of death, on the lifetime gifts, and the third calculation being the death estate. Follow that order and you will see that marks will start flowing into your exam. The most important element within that inheritance tax is, of course, the relief, which is the business property relief. And yet again, you need to be able to pick it up from this scenario, know the conditions, and know how it applies. And like I said, for capital gains tax, make sure you practice this with capital gains tax to see that you don't confuse the two rules. Also within inheritance tax are tested frequently are the diminution in value principles, the related property rules. So make sure you work or practice on that. The reduced rate of charity, which is new in your syllabus. So something probably around that area could be there in the exam as well. The fourth topic, your income tax. Now you know with this topic there's a huge element area here, because the examiner tests not only the F6 knowledge but also the P6 knowledge. So I'm not at this stage, I'm not recommending you to go and study F6 all over again, but the basics at least you can do is go through the employment income, few of the benefits there, and more so the understanding of it. What is the implication of from a company's point of view when they even employ an individual. In income tax, I would say also spend some time on the base of assessment when you start your business, when you close your business, what really happens. And they usually like to link that with other taxes as well. So try, for example, know when you start and close your business, what are the NIC implications of that as well, for example. Also, I would say spend some time on the losses for the individuals as well. There are a lot of things that the losses can happen, especially when you close or open your business. And finally, in income tax, I would say spend some time on the investments. That is, the various investments that you can make in those EIS schemes, whether it be your VCT schemes, what are the implications. Also in terms of income tax, when we spoke about, please spend some time on the different share incentives, the share option schemes as well, which are very, very good chunk of marks, which you must not ignore for P6. Final tax, which I would say is your value-added tax, the VAT. Please make sure that you've gone through the entire VAT that we've done, or which is there in the tuition notes. It's tested in every exam, and there are usually straightforward marks available there. The key areas within VAT, I would say, are the land and buildings, the different implications for that. The overseas implications when you make some sales, when you make some purchases from within the European Union, outside the EU. The registration, the group registration. And finally the schemes, the different schemes that are available to small businesses with regards to VAT. So I would say that is in a nutshell what these different taxes are, and what are the important areas within those taxes. And I will say this again, even though I'm repeating it, that you must focus on the knowledge. You must not just guess what is there. Try to do as much as you can. Give it your best shot, and I'm sure all of you will pass the exam. The final thing I would like to say is please make sure that you work on your time management. The question 1 and question 2, and more so question 1, is very time consuming. If you don't keep track of your time, before you realize it, you've run over your time, and that will hamper you doing your other questions. So please make sure when you practice at home, you practice with your time as well. And like I tell everybody, and P6 as well, I can tell you this from my own experience when I was a student, that in the exam hall you will feel a bit challenged. You will feel in a situation where you've not been put before, but you just got to be relaxed, stay calm, and you don't have to know everything. There might be some elements of knowledge which you've not done, or you might have forgotten. Well, that's fine. In the bigger picture, it does not matter, because as long as you do majority of the things correct, you will pass the exam. So good luck to all of you. I wish you all the very best, and see you all after the exam. Thank you.